Hi everybody! As much as I love growing things that I can eat, I'll also be the first to admit that I'm not yet the best at keeping plants alive. It's an ongoing learning process for sure, but one thing that I've actually found pretty good success with so far is growing microgreens. And microgreens just refers to plants at a particular stage of their development. So they're older by a little bit than sprouts and younger by a little bit than baby greens. And you can use a wide variety of plants: radishes, broccoli, arugula, kale, bok choy, all kinds of things that have different flavors and also different growing times, typically ranging between a week to 3 weeks between when you seed them and when you harvest them. And some of the great things about microgreens is that they've got a lot of nutritional benefits really packed into a pretty small package that's relatively easy to grow yourself, and also a little bit safer to grow yourself than sprouts are, which sometimes can get contaminated with bacterial growth, whereas with microgreens we actually harvest them at the stem, so they're a little bit safer to grow at home, which is what we'll be doing today. So I hope you enjoy, and I hope this is kind of a fun project that you can try out yourself. So what I'm going to be using for this is a microgreens growing kit that I actually got from a local food producer here in Gainesville. His name is Bill Wong, and his business is called Tasty and Healthy. He's really passionate about educating people on how to grow their own food at home. So I was really excited to get this kit from him and get some really helpful tips and tricks as well. But if you don't want to go that route and you want to put a kit together for yourself, you can certainly do that. You can get all of these ingredients at a combination of grocery stores, dollar stores potentially, and either gardening or home improvement stores. So I'll walk you through each of these items. The first one is our growing medium, and this is a cocoa coir pad. It's made from just the fiber from the husk of a coconut, and you can probably find this in gardening stores or home improvement stores. This is one of the more specialized items that's in here. The other one that's a little bit specialized is going to be our seeds. And when you're putting together your seed kit, if you want to do a blend, which this is, make sure that you're using seeds that have the same maturation time, so that you're not mixing seeds that are going to be ready in a week with seeds that are going to be ready in 3 weeks. So you want to be able to harvest them all at the same time, or just do a batch with all the same kind of plants. Maybe you want to do one of just radishes, maybe one of just arugula or something like that. But pay attention to that maturation time on the seed packaging when you get it. Another thing you'll need is just a large plastic Tupperware, which you can find grocery stores, dollar stores, maybe some pharmacies. So that should be pretty easy to get your hands on. This, if you can see it, is a plastic guide that's going to be helpful for when we seed. And you can also make one for yourself by just cutting out the shape that's a little bit bigger than your cocoa coir pad, but also has a hole in the middle that's a little bit smaller. So that basically it's just going to cover that outside edge of roughly ½ an inch around the outside of the mat. Also in the microgreens kit is instructions, so that's another benefit to going this route if you're kind of new to growing microgreens. And you'll also need a cookie sheet or some sort of shallow tray that has edges on it, and a spray bottle. So we'll get started with our seeding. I have pre-soaked the cocoa coir pad for about 10 minutes, and so it's ready. It's a nice moist environment for our seeds. So I'm just going to place this on the tray. I'm going to put our guide down so that it covers those edges, and then I'm going to sprinkle the seeds right on there, pretty thick. And you'll see some of them start rolling onto the edges and into the tray. And what's great about having the sides here is that when they roll off of your guide, you can actually let those seeds dry out and then put them back in here to use next time, so that we're not wasting any. All right, so the next step is just to transfer this right into our grow box. And it's ready. You can just put it under, if you've got a sunny windowsill, or you can even use a grow light that has a light and dark cycle. And we're just gonna wait for them to germinate. So we're gonna check back with this daily, 2 to 3 times a day, to actually use our spray bottle and give a nice light misting to make sure that they stay moist, which is gonna help start that process of germination. Now, once the seeds start to sprout and the roots start to make their way to the bottom of the pad, because they're going to grow through and then beneath, we want to actually stop spritzing and start actually emptying water right into the bottom. I won't do that now because they're not ready, but you'll want the water level to come up just to the bottom of that coco coir pad so that it's touching the roots, but not the stems and not the leaves. We want to keep those relatively dry, once again, to prevent any molding or microbe growth and that kind of thing. So these are hydroponically grown microgreens, soilless, and we'll see in a couple of weeks how they turn out. All right, so it's been just shy of 2 weeks, and now my microgreens are ready to harvest. So I'm just going to take the mat out of the grow box and put this to the side because we're going to be able to reuse it. And then I'm just going to take some clean scissors and just harvest it. So we don't want to harvest, the roots. We just want the stems and the leaves. So I'm going to take just little handfuls and just cut the stems, and then I'm going to put them into this bowl of clean water. And the reason I'm putting them in here is that I'm going to rinse the seed shells. There's still some of those still on the leaves, so I want to get those off rather than store them alongside the greens. So I'm just going to gently agitate these a little bit in the water, and then you'll start to see those seed shells starting to break off, and they'll be floating on the top. So now I'm just going to drain off this water and the seed shells with it, and then I'm going to give it another rinse in a strainer just to get, all the rest of, any liquid that's in there off and make sure they're nice and clean for storing. So what I'm doing now is just preparing the pad for reuse, and I want to show you what the bottom of the pad looks like because I think it's really cool. You can see that root system down there that formed while the greens were growing. So we want to get all of that off if we want to do another round using these materials. So I'm just pulling the stems up that are remaining, but even then we'll still need to do a little bit of scrubbing to make sure we get all of that plant matter off of the coconut fiber pad. Then after that, it'll need to be sanitized in order to prevent the growth of microbes, bacteria, and other stuff that we don't want close to our food. And so what you can do is create a 10% dilution of bleach and then soak the pad in there for 30 minutes. After you soak it, you want to get all that bleach off, obviously. And so you'll just soak it in plain water for at least 10 minutes twice. So you're going to, really try to flush all of that out before reusing it again. But, we can get more uses out of these materials and do this over again.